digital assets are going to win, ledgers are going to win, tokens are going to win. No. Do we need Dogecoin in the world? No, we just don't. And Shiba and all the other dogs? No. But we need Bitcoin, and we need something like Ethereum.
In today's video, Mark Yusko, the founder, CEO and CIO of Morgan Creek Capital Management, discussed about the Fed raising interest rates and impact on all markets including crypto, the crypto bear market, and if we've hit the bottom on Bitcoin.
It may not be something that we use as a currency right now because we have capital we're trying to invest to expand, where other places there's no capital to invest to expand. They're trying, even with the swings in Bitcoin, it's a hell of a lot more stable than when you look at the Argentinian peso or the Bolivar or any of these things. So there's different
Kelly,
use cases. There's different use cases based on where you're at.
It's only a swing if you look at it in dollars. There's never been a bear market in Turkey.
For Bitcoin,
Bitcoin priced in lira has only gone up. Bitcoin priced in bolivars has only gone up. Bitcoin priced in Argentinian pesos has only gone up. There's only this in euro, yen, dollar, Taiwan dollar, whatever. And it's the denominator issue. And I'll give you a perfect example, right? If you ask anyone listening to this, how close is the stock market to the all-time high? Oh, we're right there. We're right on it. Really? You realize priced not in dollars, but in gold, which is the only money that exists in the world, it's dead flat since 1997.
So
that's not true.
Right? So no. So would that suggest then that the stock market is a good speculative price action chart that shows the actual inflation over time in a bizarre different
devaluation of the currency?
Yeah.
It's absolutely a perfect indicator of and that's true of every stock market, particularly in the flailing part of the end of the republic, right? I mean, if you look at empires, they flail at the end because they don't want to die. And what happens is you get these parabolic moves in devaluation. So here's the thing. 6 years ago, Larry Fink called Bitcoin an index of money laundering.
Yeah.
An index of money laundering. 3 weeks ago, he said, it's here to stay. And oh, by the way, you should probably buy some to protect yourself against devaluation of the currency. Let that sink in for a second, y'all. One of the most powerful people in the world. You may not like him or whatever. He's in charge of the largest asset manager on the planet, therefore is in that group of elite people, has just told you that all his friends are trying to steal your money. And now, which I think is hilarious, and I'm here to help. Like, no. Satoshi was here to help 14 years ago. And I mean, I'm happy that they're going to make it easier for people, but the reality is, and this is where I got in trouble. I did another interview the other day, and they spliced a bunch of stuff, and I hate when people do this. So if you watch the whole long form,
they created a different narrative,
the answer, and that's fine. But they spliced some stuff together, and so a couple things I said sounded out of context, and I actually did misspeak once. On a word, custody, what I meant is where I self-custody does not change my ownership of my Bitcoin. If I put it on a ledger or some other device, it just doesn't matter. If I put it in a centralized custody, that's different. And so it is different if someone thinks they're buying Bitcoin when they buy the ETF, or they're buying Bitcoin if they have a Coinbase account. I get it. It's not equivalent, but that's not the point. The point is you have exposure to the return profile of the asset that you want. You just don't have to deal with the safekeeping and custody. It's no different in my mind. It is a little different, but it's not that different than buying a mutual fund or an ETF instead of buying the individual stocks. you're paying someone a fee to take care of the stuff that you don't want to take care of. And yes, it can be confiscated from you in that form. Whereas if I have it on my ledger, short of someone pointing a gun at my family, they can't take it from me.
Yeah, I mean, I think this goes back to the incredibly fast evolution of the digital asset space from, it's not even, we think the inception was when Bitcoin was launched, but anybody that's looked into this knows that this has been in development since probably the mid 90s, if not or before that. But Bitcoin was
that's such an important point, such a great point. Like, couple things. It's not an accident that Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday is 4/5/75, right? That's not accidental. Because 4/5/33 was, Executive Order 6102, where they made gold illegal for citizens. Okay, so this, 4/5/75 is clear, because 75 is when gold was legal again. So clear this has been worked on probably even since the late 80s, early 90s, and then in earnest since the late 90s. And it is not a coincidence that it was released in the middle of the global financial crisis.
Yeah.
And the first image on the Genesis block is the chancellor approving the second bailout for banks. It's not a coincidence. And so it wasn't created on that day. It's decades of work. But all of that said, it's just a simple evolution of technology that is subtle but critical in that, well, wait a second. Why is triple entry accounting matter? I mean, double entry's fine. Like, well, no, it's not. And it's funny. We had Scott Stornetta, who is a venture partner of ours at Morgan Creek. And Scott, super smart guy. He's one of the co-founders of blockchain. Like, literally, he and his partner coined the term blockchain, right? Blocks in a chain.
Been around a bit, I guess, huh?
Been around, right? And this guy, he's amazing, brilliant. And if you read the white paper and you go to the footnotes, 3 of the 8 footnotes are his papers. Okay? And so, and he's been accused of being Satoshi multiple times. And it's funny, we interviewed him on our podcast, and people always say, so you must know who Satoshi is since you're in the white paper. And he starts speaking perfect Japanese. And basically what he's saying is, if you could understand Japanese, basically what he's saying is, it's certainly possible I could know who Satoshi is given, my work.
Hey.
But if I did, do you think I would tell you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you probably wouldn't. Yeah. So, and no one really knows what he's saying because they don't speak Japanese. But the point he made, which I thought was so incredible, I never thought about. In the old days, I lent you money and I kept my book. Clay tablet, papyrus, single ledger. It was my book. I was the lender. You came to the center of town and borrowed money, and I was the money changer. And you come back to pay me back. And if I'm a scrupulous lender, I wrote down 100, you pay me back 110, all is good. But if I'm a bad guy, I changed the number to 200. You couldn't prove different. And I showed the authorities, look, it says 200, Kelly's a bum, put him in debtor prison. And you had no recourse because you had to trust me. And I turned out not to be a trustworthy person. So the Medicis came along and said, no, that's a bad system. We have a better system. 2 entries, 2 ledgers. Kelly, you keep a book. Mark, you keep a book. And we, the benevolent Medicis, for a small fee, will make sure the books match. But here's the problem. The Medicis are corruptible.
Yes. So
what if I go to them and say, I'm going to change my number to 200? If I go to 200, I'll give you half. So you need a third person. You need a fourth person to check the third person. But they're corruptible. So you need a 5th person to check the 4th person. And a 6th and a 7th. He said, oh my God, you need the whole world to verify the transaction. And the light bulb went on. That's Bitcoin. It's so profound that this old system that's been around for 800 years and generates $7 trillion of wealth for Larry and Jamie and Warren and all these intermediaries with their hands out taking fees from us. I'll tell you a crazy thing, right? I set up a foundation when I set up Morgan Creek years ago, copying from Julian Robertson. So he has the Tiger Foundation, I have the Morgan Creek Foundation, and we give a little part of our profits for education. And 19 years ago, when we set that up, I never saw this then because I'm not an accountant. They started charging, the bank classified us as a business account and have been charging us $70 a month for 19 years for audit. You've never sent me a report. I've never asked you to audit. Long story short, they're like, you're a business account. That's what they pay. Like, for what? What am I paying for?
There's nothing different. Yeah.
No. Well, here's the worst part. So our accountant retired, and I said, you know what? My wife had also retired recently. I said, why don't you do this? You run a not-for-profit. Why don't you run our not-for-profit? And she saw this, and she's like, I got nothing. She went to the bank. She said, you cancel this right now. I'm like, no, you have to have it. She's like, I do not, because I can go to this bank or this bank, and I'm not paying fees. Trust me. Magically, we're not paying fees anymore. Now, they're not going to refund all the fees from before, but $7 trillion a year gets spent on these superfluous fees, and that's all going away. Now, it's not going away tomorrow, and the incumbents are going to fight, which is what they're doing right now, which is this whole Operation Choke Point. But ultimately, triple entry accounting is going to win. Ultimately, digital assets are going to win. Ledgers are going to win. Tokens are going to win. And no, do we need Dogecoin in the world? No, we just don't. And Shiba and all the other dogs, no. But we need Bitcoin, and we need something like Ethereum. Maybe it doesn't have to be Ethereum, but it could be. And we need a handful of other platforms. Now, there are those that say, no, all we need is Bitcoin. Fine, prove it. Make Lightning scale. Give me an L3 and an L4 that I can actually make payments using. And then maybe one chain to rule all chains, like the ring from Lord of the Rings. But maybe. But between now and then, tons of things to do and tons of things to work on. But it's an exciting time because this is a technological evolution. It's not a revolution. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And it's just exciting to see it all unfold.